The shift began subtly, a phantom scent clinging to the air. Not Eva's. My wife lived within a fragrance radius of 2, floral bright, or deep musk, season dictating. But this was a new player. Something sugary edged with spice, vanilla with a clandestine kick. Morning kiss off, it hit me. Lingered. Different perfume? I asked, casual. Eva looked up from her mug, hair flicking behind an ear. Oh! A smile flashed, practiced, not quite making it to her eyes. Massage oil, probably. Therapist uses everything, you know. Made a kind of sense. Let it slide. Then, massages were the new normal. Post-leg break. Bathroom tiles, slick as sin, a nasty fall. Surgery, crutches, simmering frustration. Stillness was Eva's personal hell. Then, a friend's referral. In-house massage lady. Sweetheart she is. Eva's voice, lighter than weeks prior. Older, really nice. You'd actually like her. So, every morning, 10 on the dot, while I punched the clock, she arrived. Initially, fine. Just routine. Life. Then, the hairline cracks appeared. Imperceptible at first, then, sharper. Like a puzzle rearranging, showing a picture I wasn't sure I wanted to see develop. Eva's reflection became a project. Never a slob, even hobbled, but now? Now it was morning makeup, light but deliberate strokes. Hair always styled, always perfectly brushed. Caught her once, 9:50 a.m., perfume wrists. 10 minutes to massage o'clock. Leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, feeling like a cop. Dressing up for the geriatric set? Eva spun, jumpy, like I'd materialized. A quick laugh, dismissive hand wave. Just hate feeling. Grungy. You know me. Solid answer. Reasonable. So why did it taste like a lie? Told myself. Imagination. Paranoia. But then. Thursday night. Couch. Movie flickering. Her leg elevated. Phone scroll in hand. Half tuned in, when she dropped it. Thinking, she started, circling her wine glass rim. Maybe next week? Double sessions. Glanced up. Double. Nodded. Morning. Afternoon. Really working. A beat of nothing. Testing the ice. More quality time with your lovely elderly friend, then. Eva's spine went rigid. Microsecond. Then, recovery, too fast. Yeah, she said, sipping. She's great. And then, too much. Reminds me of Grandma, honestly. And bam. Clarity. She'd stressed it before. The masseuse's age. Hammered it home, actually. Grandmotherly, safe. Next morning, left for work, 9 a.m. sharp. Kissed her goodbye, clicked the door locked. Or thought I did. 20 minutes later, office parking lot. Gut drop. Papers. Crucial ones. Left them cold. Frustrated sigh, slammed it in reverse, pointed the car back home. Small thing. Accident. Coincidence. But it was the fuse. Lighting slow. Leading somewhere dark. Backing into the drive, work still buzzing in my skull. This was a detour, a pit stop. Papers in hand, then back to the grind. But exiting the car, the air itself felt wrong. Front door ajar. Not just unlocked. Unlatched. Impossible. I'd locked it. Bolt, click, the whole routine. Knew it in my bones. Tiny tremor of unease, quickly amplified. Pushed it open, slow, careful. House swallowed sound. Unnerving quiet. The usual hum, muted TV, Eva's hobbled movements, vanished. Then, a hiss. Water. Bathroom. Door kissed open, steam spilling into the hallway like ghostly fingers. Mirror fogged solid, but through the swirling mist, a shape. Hers. Eva back to the door, robe sliding off smooth shoulders. Air jammed in my lungs. Nothing underneath. Bare skin. Cleared my throat. Harsh. Too loud. Eva convulsed. Clutched the robe. White-knuckled grip. Spun around. Face drained. Bloodless. Kevin. Voice tight. A panicked whisper. What are you doing back? Forced casual. Papers. Left them. Checked my wrist. A performance. Masseuse any minute, right? Eva didn't answer. Silence slammed down. Thick. Airless. Not just surprise flickering across her face. This was exposure. Then, front door, a voice. Rich. Deep. Male. Casual familiarity woven in. Honey, I'm here. Words sliced the air. Sharp. Lethal. Pulse detonated in my chest. Eva went ramrod straight. Every muscle locked. A heartbeat later, he walked in. Taller than me. Lean. Fit. Early 40s, maybe. Shirt sleeves rolled. Confident ease. He moved like he owned the place. Sorry, running late. He started, then stopped. Eyes locked on mine. Saw it click in his eyes. The instant of catastrophic realization. Panic flared. Raw. Uncontrolled. Body tensed. Ready to spring. Then, before my brain even caught up, he moved. Decisive. Damning. He bolted. Sprinted for the open door. Pure animal instinct took over. Legs firing. No thought involved. Lunge. Grab. Fabric bunching in my fist. What the hell? Voice ripped. Raw throat. Ragged edges. Twisted free. Shirt tearing. Stumbled back. Hands raised like shields. Look. I'm sorry, didn't realize. Eva's voice, a desperate shard, cut through the chaos. Kevin, stop it. Whipped around. Eva, robe clutched so tight her knuckles were bone white. Face utterly bleached of color. Not even rage yet. Not thought. Just blank need. Turned back to him. Voice dropped. Lethal calm. Who the hell are you? No answer. Not a word. Just ran. Full sprint out the door. Vanished down the street. Silence slammed back. Heavier now. Oppressive. Only sound. My own heart. Hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Turned to Eva. Not looking at me. Eyes fixed on the empty doorway. Like she ached to follow. Voice rough. Barely audible. Tell me the truth. Eva stayed mute. But the silence, the absence of denial, that screamed louder than any confession. Fists clenched. Finally, swallow. Voice fractured. Kevin. I took a step back. Didn't want to hear it. Not yet. Not now. Something cold, hard, settled inside. Not confusion. Not paranoia's whisper. This was real. Solid. The answer was there, brutal and undeniable. Now, the only question roaring in my head. What the hell do I do next? Doorway. Just the empty space where he'd been, seconds ago. My head felt split open, a war zone of logic versus raw feeling. One side clicking pieces into place, cold and sharp. The other screaming denial, refusing the picture. Eva stood there, a statue carved from shame, robe still clutched like a lifeline, face whiter than the porcelain sink. Air hung thick, unbreathable. Silence stretched, a taut wire about to snap. Turned to her, voice scraped bone dry. Who was that? She swallowed hard, throat working, but sound died before it reached her lips. Stepped closer, closing the distance, a predator circling. Talk to me, Eva. Her lips moved, forming words that weren't there. Eyes darted around like caged prey, desperate for escape routes that didn't exist. Kevin. Voice cracked, barely a whisper. You're twisting this. You don't understand what you think you saw. Laughed, a harsh bark that hurt my own ears. Think I saw. Jabbed a thumb at the gaping doorway, still vibrating with his absence. Man walks in, calls you honey. Walks in like he owns the damn place. Then sees me and runs like he's seen a ghost. Explain that, Eva. She flinched, recoiling as if struck. Tried to rally, pulling herself together like shattered glass. He must have been confused. Wrong house. Mistake. Stared at her, disbelief curdling in my gut. She couldn't even sell the lie. Desperate scramble, throwing shit at the wall, hoping something, anything, would stick. Something inside me fractured. Snapped clean in two. Enough. Stop the goddamn lies. Eyes flickered away, couldn't hold mine. That tiny movement, a silent confession. All the confirmation I needed, burning like acid. Chest constricted, a vice tightening, stealing my breath. World warped, unreal, edges blurring. This was Eva. My Eva. And she couldn't meet my gaze, couldn't face me. Jaw clenched so tight teeth ground together. How long, Eva? Her eyes snapped back, startled, like a deer caught in headlights. What are you even? How? Fucking. Long. Words ripped out, raw, guttural. Headshake, frantic, hands shaking like leaves in a storm. Kevin, it's not. You're blowing this out of proportion. How? Long. Lip bitten, teeth sinking in, white turning crimson. Brutal silence, stretched to breaking. Then, a whisper, barely there, exhaled like a dying breath. A few months. Words slammed into me, physical force. Wind knocked out of me, gut punched. Months. Breath hitched, ragged inhale. Betrayal sank in, a lead weight dragging me under, deeper than I thought possible. Months. While I was at work, busting my ass. While she was healing, playing the fragile invalid. While I was juggling everything, holding our lives together. And the filthiest part? She wouldn't have said a damn thing. Wouldn't have confessed, volunteered the truth. I had to catch her. Stumble into it, blind. Sharp, humorless laugh choked out. Head shake, slow, disbelieving. Jesus Christ, Eva. Just, Jesus. She reached, hand outstretched, pleading. Kevin, please, just let me. Jerked back, recoiling like her touch would burn. Don't you dare touch me. Recoiled as if slapped, flinched away from me. Do you even get it? Voice trembling, rage coiling, hands fisted at my sides, shaking with the force of it. Do you have any goddamn clue how humiliating this is? Voice cracked. Do you even care? Tears flooded her eyes, finally. I didn't. Breathed out, slow, ragged, fighting to cage the animal roaring inside. You let me believe you were hurting. Let me feel sorry for you. The whole goddamn time you were. Sentence fractured, choked off, words failing me. Eva swiped at her face, tears smearing mascara. I swear, Kevin, I never meant for any of this to happen. Another laugh, colder this time, hollow echo in an empty space. Right. Just happened to fall into another man's bed? Accidentally tangled yourself up in his life? Is that the bullshit story now? Head shake, weak, pathetic. Eva, voice rising, raw edge sharpening. I have done everything for you. Worked myself to the bone to keep us afloat while you were laid up, bent over backwards to make your life easier, and you stopped, hand raking through my hair, tangling in the roots. Hesitation. Then, a shift. Almost imperceptible at first. A flicker of something in her eyes. Not remorse. Not guilt. Something harder. Defiance. Like a circuit tripped, a switch flipped in her head. Back straightened. Chin lifted. A fraction. He was irresistible, Kevin. Blinked, stunned. Stupidly. Excuse me? Irresistible. It just happened. It was a mistake, okay? Something in my chest gave way. Cracked. Shattered. Step back, slow exhale, trying to breathe through the pressure crushing my lungs. Unfucking believable. Took a step forward, hand reaching again, a desperate, pleading gesture. Please, Kevin, don't do this. We can fix this. Laughed again. Louder this time. Bitter, bordering on hysterical. Don't do what, Eva? Don't be pissed? Don't be gutted? You cheated on me, ripped our life apart, and now you're blaming me for what? For reacting. Felt. Nothing. Numbness creeping in, icy tendrils spreading through my veins. Not anger. Not even real sorrow, not yet. Just emptiness. Hollowed out. Sob choked in her throat, shoulders convulsing. It was a mistake, Kevin. A stupid, awful mistake. No voice flat, dead. Mistake is forgetting to set the alarm. Mistake is burning dinner. Mistake is missing an anniversary. This was a choice, Eva. A deliberate, repeated fucking choice. Day after day. Week after week. Months. Shoulders shook harder, tears streaming now, uncontrolled. Kevin, please. Took another step back. Away from her, away from the wreckage. And in that moment, it clicked. Hard. Undeniable. Finality. This was the end. Something fundamental, vital, inside me, had broken beyond repair. Shattered into pieces too small to ever put back together. Turned. Towards the door. Away. Where are you going? She cried out, voice raw with panic. Didn't answer. Couldn't. Because I didn't know. Not yet. Not beyond the immediate, desperate need to escape. All I knew, with a certainty that resonated bone deep, was that I couldn't. I physically could not be here. Another second. Stepped out, crossed the threshold, cold air hitting my skin, a physical shock. And in that sudden chill, a flicker of something new. Clarity. Walking away. And not coming back. Kept walking. Blind steps away from the house, from Eva, from the smoking wreckage of everything we were. Feet moved on autopilot, brain lagging, struggling to process the raw data of the last 10 minutes. But nowhere to go. Blank slate. Stumbled to the car, didn't open the door. Leaned against the cold metal roof, hands braced, lungs heaving, trying to draw air. Trying to feel anything other than this vacuum. This crushing, airless void where my heart used to beat. Silence pressed in, heavier than any shout, any accusation. The confrontation, the rage, the betrayal, had sound, fury. But now, just null. Only my pulse hammering in my ears, a frantic drumbeat against the quiet. And the solid, brutal certainty, marriage, over. Finished. Atomized. Sank into the driver's seat, hands vice-gripped to the wheel, knuckles bone white. Should be relief, right? Escape velocity achieved. Freedom. Theoretically. Instead, grief. Pure, unadulterated grief. Hit in waves, tidal force, crashing over me, dragging me under. Drowning in memory shrapnel, flashbacks I hadn't asked for, didn't want. First meeting Eva, that laugh, bright as sunlight, the way she tucked hair behind her ear when flustered. Late-night talks that stretched into dawn, endless conversations that never ran dry. Road trips, wind in our hair, sun-drenched horizons. Quiet mornings, coffee steam curling in the air, small rituals we built, brick by fragile brick. Did any of it mean nothing? Worthless. Disposable. Did I mean nothing? A placeholder. A fool in a long-running joke? Eyes squeezed shut, temples throbbing, trying to batten down the hatches, barricade against the onslaught. But memories breached the walls, relentless, brutal in their clarity. Had she ever loved me? Really loved me, the way I'd poured out my soul for her? Or had I been the chump from the jump, blinded by hope and hormones? Worst part wasn't the white-hot anger, the visceral urge to break things. It was the doubt. Poisonous, corrosive doubt, seeping into the foundations of everything I thought I knew. Because now, I questioned everything. Every smile, every touch, every whispered promise. Was any of it real? Or had it all been a performance, a carefully constructed lie? Called the office, voice flat, detached, requested the afternoon off. Sick day, vaguely. Should have driven. Gunned the engine, pointed the car west. Just disappeared. Found a dive bar in some nameless town, drowned myself in cheap whiskey and oblivion. Instead, sat here, motionless, staring through the windshield, rain starting to mist the glass, world blurring at the edges. Weight of it all settling, crushing down, bones to dust. Years. Spent years building this thing. This life. With her. Poured in sweat, blood, goddamn hope. Trusted her with everything. My heart, my future, my goddamn soul. Fought for us, bled for us, sacrificed pieces of myself to make sure she was happy. Or so I thought. And this was the payoff. The grand finale. A stranger strolling into my house, calling my wife honey, like it was his goddamn right. And me, walking away. Empty shell. Hollowed out, scraped clean. Sharp exhale, fingers tightening on the wheel, plastic groaning under the pressure. Sickening thought, bile rising in my throat. Was there ever a time she actually loved me? Genuinely, truly, without reservation? Or had I just been convenient, settled for second best? Thought clawed at me, sharp talons tearing at my insides. Tried to shake it off, wrench myself free, but it clung, a parasite burrowed deep, feeding on my hope, my history, my goddamn sanity. Didn't want to believe it. Desperate to cling to something real, some scrap of truth. Wanted to believe that at least some of it had been authentic. That she'd loved me, once, in some form, however flawed. That the years weren't just elaborate theater. But now, staring into the abyss of this new reality, now a nothing felt solid. Nothing felt true. Nothing felt real anymore. Forced a breath, lungs seizing, air tasting like ash. Each inhale a jagged shard of glass sliding down my throat. Glanced back at the house. Silent, looming. Our tomb. Thought about going back inside. For what, though? More shouting. More accusations hurled like weapons? Demand answers to questions I already knew were lies. Hollow justifications for unforgivable acts. Didn't move. Muscles locked. Frozen in place. Pointless. Utterly, devastatingly pointless. Nothing left to fight for. No common ground. No shared future. Nothing left to salvage. Reached for the phone, fingers hovering over the screen, trembling slightly. Wanted to call someone. Anyone. Human voice, lifeline in this sudden, suffocating isolation. But who? Who the hell do you call when your life implodes? When the scaffolding crumbles and the whole damn structure comes crashing down around you? Had poured so much of myself into Eva, into us, that I'd lost track of me. Who was I without her? Stripped bare, identity dissolved, just Kevin. Adrift. Untethered. My world had revolved around her, sun and moon both, and now, eclipse. Permanent darkness. What the hell came next? Blank space stretching out, terrifying in its emptiness. Loneliness slammed in, physical force, wind knocked out of me again. Not just the end of a marriage. That was just the headline. This was the end of everything I thought I knew. The end of my carefully constructed reality, shattered beyond recognition. Dropped the phone onto the passenger seat. Useless weight. Head fell back against the headrest, neck muscles screaming. Exhausted. Bone-deep, soul-weary exhaustion that went beyond mere physical fatigue. And then, finally, For the first time since walking out, let it go. Let the grief in. Opened the floodgates, surrendered to the inevitable. Silent, suffocating wave washing over me, inescapable. Jaw clenched, teeth grinding, willing it back, fighting for control, for some semblance of composure. But, too much. Overwhelming. Hands shaking, tremors running through me, breath ragged, hitching in my chest. Chest ached, a physical wound, raw and throbbing with the weight of it all, crushing, suffocating. And in that brutal, gutting moment, the worst, most agonizing realization slammed home. Still loved her. After everything. Despite the betrayal, the humiliation, the lies, the casual cruelty that ripped through me like a goddamn buzzsaw. Still loved the woman who just systematically, deliberately, destroyed me. Didn't know how long I sat there, drowning in the undertow of it all. Minutes. Hours. Time, meaningless. Abstract concept, disconnected from this raw, visceral present. But something shifted. Internal tectonic plates grinding, realigning. Maybe exhaustion finally claimed me. Maybe survival instinct kicked in, primal, desperate. Maybe just numbness finally won. But somewhere, lost in the labyrinth of grief and rage, made a choice. Wasn't going to let this break me. Not completely. Scars would be permanent, etched deep. Pain wouldn't vanish with the sunrise, wouldn't fade overnight. But refused to let her win. Refused to let her betrayal define me, to let her darkness extinguish my light. Reached for the keys, hand steadier now. Ignition turned, engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. One deep breath. Then another, and another, anchoring myself in the present. Pulled out of the driveway, tires spitting gravel, leaving it all behind. House shrinking in the rearview mirror, receding into the past. Didn't know where I was going. No destination in mind, no roadmap for this shattered future. But, for the first time since walking out that door, didn't matter. Because wherever it was, whatever came next, one thing was brutally, undeniably clear. It would be somewhere without her. Here is the rewritten fifth and final part of the story, aiming for approximately 5,000 characters and providing a convincing conclusion. No going back to that house. Couldn't stomach another breath in that poisoned air. Couldn't stand to exist in the radioactive fallout of our shattered life. Sleeping under the same roof as her? Knowing what she'd done, the ghost of him still clinging to the air, the sheets, the very walls? Unthinkable. Needed out. Clean break. Distance. Physical, emotional, psychic. A space scrubbed clean of her presence, where the silence didn't echo with her lies. Then, a name surfaced, unbidden, a lifeline in the churning darkness. Mark. Phone clutched in hand, digits punched in before the logical part of my brain could catch up, could overthink, could retreat. Line rang twice, each pulse hammering against the fragile shell of my composure. Then, his voice, grounded, familiar. Kev. Swallowed, throat constricted, voice catching. Hey man. Listen, need a place. Silence hung for a beat, then the shift in his tone, concern edging in, sharpening the edges. What the hell happened? Too much to get into right now. Just, can I crash at yours? Floor, couch, anything. Don't be an idiot. Of course. Get over here. Now. Relief flooded in, momentarily easing the pressure in my chest, a small island of calm in a tsunami of emotion. But fleeting. Because this wasn't about a place to crash, a temporary inconvenience. This was about acceptance. Brutal, irreversible acceptance. Home. Wasn't home anymore. Marriage. DOA. Code blue. Flatline. Mark lived across town, quiet suburban sprawl, identical houses lined up like dominoes, each one whispering promises of normalcy, of lives lived within predictable boundaries. Pulled into his drive, cut the engine, and the weight descended again, a lead blanket smothering me, exhaustion seeping into my bones. He was waiting at the door, already in the uniform of the emotionally available friend, sweats and a hoodie, worn soft from years of use. Face etched with concern, worry lines deepening around his eyes, but a bedrock of understanding beneath the surface. "Get in here, man," he said, stepping back, gesturing me inside with a subtle tilt of his head. Walked into the warm air of his house, generic comforting scent of laundry detergent and old books wrapping around me, a stark contrast to the icy emptiness consuming me from the inside out. No questions, no forced small talk. Mark just pressed a cold beer into my hand, a silent offering, a physical anchor in the swirling chaos of my head, and gestured towards the worn leather couch, sink deep and familiar. "Sit. Just breathe." Did. Fell into the worn cushions, the beer cold against my clammy palm. He settled across from me, mirroring my posture, elbows on knees, leaning forward, radiating quiet solidity. "Eva." Direct. No preamble. Bitter laugh ripped out of me, short, humorless. "Yeah. Eva." The name itself tasted like ash in my mouth. "Shit, man," he muttered, headshake slow and disbelieving. "She actually cheated?" He didn't need confirmation. The question was rhetorical, just voicing the unthinkable. Stared down at the sweating beer bottle, watching condensation trace meandering paths down the glass, hypnotic, detached. Then, slow nod, barely perceptible movement. Mark exhaled, low whistle of air escaping his lips, sharp, cutting through the silence. "Rough doesn't even cover it. Listen to me, Kev. You stay here. Long as you need. No questions, no bullshit. Just, you're here. All right." Swallowed again, throat tight, lump immovable. "Thanks, Mark." Words felt inadequate, flimsy, couldn't carry the weight of what he was offering. He just nodded once, curt, dismissive, like it was nothing, like offering a couch to a friend in crisis was the most natural, unremarkable thing in the world. Like it wasn't the only solid goddamn ground left beneath my feet in a world that had just tilted on its axis. Woke up in Mark's guest room to a pounding head, throbbing pressure behind my eyes. Not hangover haze, not alcohol-induced thrumming. This was the physical manifestation of psychic damage, the raw, exposed nerve endings of a life detonated. Stared at the ceiling for a long, silent eternity before forcing myself upright, limbs heavy, leaden, unresponsive. Decision time. Brutal. Unavoidable. Sink into the abyss. Wallow in the toxic mire of pain, let it consume me, define my future, become the sum total of my existence. Or try. Just try. To crawl out. To claw my way back to the surface, blinking into the harsh sunlight of a world remade, a world I no longer recognized. To start. Over. Rebuild from the ashes, piece by painstaking piece. Hand reached for the phone, hovering, trembling above Eva's name in the contact list. Ghosts of 1,000 conversations, echoes of laughter, whispers of intimacy. Flicker of weakness, a momentary temptation to, what? Beg. Plead. Scream. Then, a surge of something harder, something sharper, something that tasted like self-respect. No. Without another hesitation, slid my finger across the screen, the red button glowing, final, irreversible. Block. No more calls. No more late-night texts, no more pleading, no more manipulative apologies, no more empty promises. No more bullshit. Silence. Clean, absolute, necessary silence. Then, scrolled again, found another name, a different kind of lifeline. Dialed. Lawyer's office. Receptionist's polite. Professional drone. Hold music, tinny and irritating. Then, finally, his voice, measured, calm, reassuringly expensive. "I want a divorce," I said, voice surprisingly steady, grounded, for the first time in what felt like weeks. Days. Hours. Lifetimes. And I want the house sold. Everything. Clean slate. Words hung in the air, simple declarative sentences, yet, seismic, solidified, hardened into irreversible fact. This was happening. Real. No turning back. And I was doing it. Taking control, wresting back agency from the chaos, from the wreckage, from her. Next week's blurred, a muted landscape of forced forward motion. Wasn't easy. God, it was a goddamn uphill climb. Every step weighted, every breath a conscious effort. Some mornings, woke up expecting to hear her, phantom sounds of Eva in the kitchen, distant murmur of water running as she started her day, our day, that day, the ghost of a life we no longer had. But silence. Just the oppressive hollow silence of Mark's guest room. She wasn't there. Would never be there again. And that had to be okay. Had to learn to breathe in this oxygen-thin air, to exist in this desolate landscape. Had to be enough. Piece by painstaking piece, slowly, agonizingly, started to reclaim. Not my old life. Couldn't go back. Wouldn't want to. But a life. My life. Reconstructed from the rubble. Flawed. Imperfect. But mine. Mark, anchor. Solid presence in the storm surge. Didn't push. Didn't pry. Didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. Didn't force me to talk. Didn't demand emotional autopsies when I wasn't ready, when the words choked in my throat, refusing to surface. But he was there. Quietly, consistently, reliably there. Solid wall in the howling wind. And that was enough. More than enough. Everything. One evening, weeks in, as dusk bled into twilight, sitting on his porch, lukewarm beers sweating in our hands, he nudged my bottle with his own, a silent clink of solidarity. You should get your stuff, Kev. Gentle nudge, not a command. Exhaled, long, slow release of tension. Don't want to go back there, man. Place is poisoned. Don't have to. Took a long pull from his beer, eyes fixed on the horizon, painted in hues of fading orange and bruised purple. I'll go. Tell me what you need. Make a list. Hesitated. Thought about it, really thought about it. For the first time letting go of the bitterness, the possessiveness, the suffocating weight of the past. Then, slow nod. Letting go. Clothes, I guess. Laptop. Sketchbooks. Yeah. That's it. That was it. Everything else? Furniture, dishes, the carefully curated artifacts of a life now detonated? Let her keep it. Burn it. Dump it in the goddamn ocean for all I cared. Wasn't mine anymore. Never truly had been. Clearly. Few weeks after filing, drove past the old house. Accident, muscle memory kicking in, autopilot directing me towards a destination that no longer existed, a phantom address etched in my GPS didn't mean to, wasn't conscious decision, just happened. Windows dark, empty sockets staring out at the street. Front door, solid oak, the same door I'd walked through every evening for years, now felt alien, hostile, foreign. Disconnected. Had grieved for this place. For the phantom echoes of laughter, for the ghost life I'd built within those walls, fragile, illusory. But sitting there, car idling at the curb, staring at the darkened facade, felt nothing. Numbness, maybe. Detachment, finally, blessedly. Because truth slammed home, clean, sharp, undeniable clarity cutting through the fog of pain and confusion. Wasn't losing anything. Not truly. Wasn't loss. It was liberation. Was getting my life back. Reclaiming the pieces she'd scattered, reassembling them into something new. Something whole, something mine. Later, weeks bleeding into months, found an apartment. Small, bare bones, functional. Neutral space, devoid of ghosts, scrubbed clean of shared history. First morning in the new place, woke up alone. Sunlight streaming through unfamiliar blinds, casting stripes across bare walls. First time in years, decades even, wasn't waking up to her. No shared coffee, no morning rituals, no familiar presence breathing beside me in the dawn light. Just silence. and space. And yet, standing in the sterile kitchen, drinking instant coffee from a chipped ceramic mug, mismatched, imperfect, mine, realized something profound, something liberating. Didn't miss her. Not anymore. Not really. Not the her she'd become, the stranger in my bed, the architect of my destruction. Had walked through the fire. Had stumbled, bled, nearly drowned in the inferno. But had made it through. Emerged on the other side, scorched, scarred, but standing. And stronger. Somehow, impossibly, stronger. Resilient in ways I never knew I could be. Wasn't healed. Not yet, maybe never fully. Scars ran deep, invisible wounds still aching beneath the surface. But free, untethered, released from the suffocating weight of a lie, the suffocating embrace of a ghost. And that fragile nascent sense of liberation, of possibility, of a future unwritten, a future mine to shape, that was enough. For now. More than enough. It was everything.